here you are, welcomed softly by Dreamtime Science in the silence of a starlit evening. Picture a quiet library, tall windows revealing the velvety night sky, scattered with shimmering lights far, far away. It's a place where the mind may wander freely, where every word floats like a gentle breeze across your thoughts. If you feel at home in these stories, a quiet like or a subscription would help light our way, and do share a note in the comments about the peaceful place you're listening from. Now, take a moment to find perfect comfort. Adjust your position, perhaps turn over on your side, and breathe in the calm that night brings. We are ready to begin our gentle exploration now, together, letting every whisper of science bring you closer to rest and wonder under this soft, endless sky. Tonight we'll glide very slowly, very gently through the quiet mysteries of the cosmos, wondering if the universe itself might hold a whisper of consciousness within its vast, starlit embrace. Let's keep a safe, pillow-soft distance as we softly explore this delicate dance between space, time, and awareness, inviting curiosity to drift like a gentle breeze through our dreams. Now, let your thoughts float calmly as we begin this tender journey into the heart of cosmic wonder. Should these dreamy explorations accompany your journey to sleep, a gentle like or subscription would be deeply appreciated. What questions about our universe keep you wonderfully curious? Before we begin, create your sanctuary. Nestle into your chosen spot, let your muscles soften, and allow your breath to find its natural rhythm. Beneath the shroud of night, when the world softens into a hush and the sky stretches out like a vault of unspoken secrets, human minds have always turned their gaze upward. The stars, scattered across the black as if by a careful hand, have long been mirrors for our own curiosity and longing. There is a particular tranquility in the hours after dusk, when the ordinary clamor recedes and the universe seems to lean just a little closer, as if to whisper its stories to those who are still awake and willing to listen. Across millennia and continents, countless people have looked skyward and wondered, what is it that animates this vast cosmos? Is the universe merely a stage, cold and indifferent, or does some subtle presence, some hush of awareness, quiver through the fabric of all things? This gentle, persistent question lingers at the heart of human reflection, a shimmer of inquiry that has colored our myths, our philosophies, our science fiction, and even our most private dreams. In the ancient world, the sky was not an empty expanse, but a living realm, peopled by gods, spirits, and mysteries. The Greeks saw the vault of heaven as the dome of Uranos, the primordial sky-father, whose union with Gaia, the earth, gave rise to the gods themselves. The Egyptians pictured Nut arching over the world, swallowing the setting sun, and giving birth to it anew each dawn. In the cosmologies of indigenous peoples, from the dreamtime of Australia to the animist beliefs of the Americas, the stars and planets were not mere objects, but brothers, sisters, ancestors, and guides. At the core of these stories is a sense of intimate connection, the idea that the universe is not separate from us, but somehow suffused with life, intention, or thought. This intuition would later find new expression in philosophy, art, and more recently in the vivid imaginings of science fiction. As the centuries gently turned, the language of gods and spirits evolved into more subtle inquiries about the nature of consciousness itself. Was it possible, thinkers wondered, that mind was not confined to the skulls of animals, but woven throughout the very matter of the cosmos? This is where our journey slows to contemplate the notion of panpsychism, a word as gentle and elusive as the concept it describes. Panpsychism is the philosophical view that mind, or at least some form of experience, is a fundamental and ubiquitous feature of the universe. It does not claim that rocks think in the way that humans do, or that planets compose poetry, but it invites us to consider a spectrum of awareness, a trembling potential for experience that pervades all things, from the tiniest particle to the grandest galaxy. To some, this idea feels like a return to animism, an echo of those earlier world views in which the earth and sky hum with unseen life. To others, it is a bold response to the so-called hard problem of consciousness, the deep mystery of how subjective experience arises from physical processes. If consciousness seems so strange and irreducible, why not consider that it is not an emergent oddity, but rather a basic ingredient, present everywhere in some faint primordial form? The philosopher Alfred North Whitehead, writing in the early 20th century, framed the universe as a process of becoming, with every atom and event carrying a glimmer of prehension, a primitive kind of feeling or awareness. His was not a world of dead matter and isolated minds, but of ceaseless interaction and mutual influence, a pulsing web of experience that stretches from the smallest scale to the sweep of galaxies. In Whitehead's cosmology, even a stone is not wholly insensate, but participates in the drama of existence, however dimly. Yet for most of us, these ideas flicker at the edges of imagination, hard to grasp through the routines and logics of everyday life. It is here that storytelling, and especially science fiction, steps in to bridge the gap between abstraction and lived experience. Consider, if you will, the otherworldly forests of Pandora in James Cameron's film Avatar. The Na'vi, the blue-skinned inhabitants of this luminous world, live in profound symbiosis with their environment. Through neural tendrils, they can connect not only to animals, but to the very trees themselves, forming a network of consciousness that stretches across the planet. The centerpiece of their spirituality is Ewa, a planetary intelligence that remembers, feels, and responds. The roots of trees pulse with bioluminescent energy, carrying signals and memories. When a Na'vi dies, their essence is believed to return to Ewa, merging with the collective soul of the world. What makes this vision so compelling, beyond the dazzling spectacle of colors and creatures, is its resonance with an ancient intuition that the world is alive, that mind is not locked away in isolated brains, but flows and connects, forming patterns and networks that extend far beyond the individual. Ewa is not simply a god in the sky, but an emergent, distributed consciousness, a planetary mind arising from the interconnections of all living things and the land itself. The film's vision is an artistic rendering of panpsychism, transposed to a scale that invites awe. But the roots of this idea run deeper still, threading through other visions of fiction and philosophy. In Andrei Tarkovsky's haunting film Solaris, the eponymous planet is not merely a world to be explored, but a sentient ocean capable of reaching into the minds of its human visitors and conjuring their memories into living flesh. The protagonists, orbiting above the planet in a lonely space station, find themselves haunted by loved ones brought back to life, not as ghosts, but as tangible, thinking beings. The planet's consciousness is utterly alien, incomprehensible, yet it cannot help but respond to the presence of the human mind, mirroring its hopes and fears. Tarkovsky's Solaris is a meditation on the limits of human understanding, an invitation to imagine consciousness in forms utterly unlike our own. Here the notion of panpsychism is transformed into a cosmic riddle. If mind can exist in forms so strange, might it not ripple through the universe in ways we cannot yet fathom? Is it possible that every star, every nebula is in some sense awake, thinking, remembering, dreaming in a fashion so unlike our own that we can only catch glimpses of its meaning like distant thunder? Science fiction, at its best, does not merely speculate about technology or distant worlds. It opens a space for wonder, for play, for the gentle unsettling of our assumptions. It asks, what if the universe thinks? What if every atom is a whisper of consciousness, every molecule a flicker of feeling, every planet a slow, vast meditation? In these stories, the cosmos is not a clockwork of blind matter, but a web of relationships, a symphony of awareness echoing from the smallest quark to the grandest cluster of galaxies. The cultural resonance of these themes is profound. In the 21st century, as our knowledge of the physical universe expands, as we send probes to the outer planets and peer ever deeper into the fabric of matter, we find ourselves returning again and again to the question of consciousness. What is it? Where does it begin? Can it be found in the patterns of neurons, or does it shimmer through the quantum fields beneath all things? Modern physics, for all its power, has not banished the mystery. If anything, it has only deepened it. Quantum theory, with its strange entanglements and observer effects, sometimes seems to gesture toward a reality in which mind and matter are not so easily separated. The famous paradoxes, Schrödinger's cat, the collapse of the wave function, have prompted some thinkers to wonder whether consciousness itself plays a role in shaping reality. Though the majority of physicists remain cautious, the questions linger like the afterglow of a vanished star. Meanwhile, in the world of neuroscience, the search for the neural correlates of consciousness continues, a patient, careful mapping of brain activity, a cataloguing of the patterns that correspond to thought, emotion, and awareness. Yet even as we trace the networks of the brain in ever finer detail, the leap from matter to mind remains elusive. The hard problem, as philosopher David Chalmers dubbed it, persists. How does the firing of neurons, the movement of molecules, give rise to the intimate first-person experience of being? Why should a particular pattern of matter be accompanied by the spark of awareness, when so much of the universe appears mute and silent? Panpsychism, in this context, is both an ancient echo and a radical suggestion, a whisper in the stars, inviting us to look again, to set aside the assumption that awareness is an accidental byproduct, and instead to see it as fundamental, woven into the fabric of existence. It is neither a dogma nor a doctrine, but an opening, a possibility that consciousness is not a late arrival on the cosmic stage, but an ever-present thread, however faint, in all things. The allure of this idea is not merely philosophical or scientific. It is emotional, existential, perhaps even spiritual. To imagine a universe in which all things participate, in some measure, in the dance of awareness, is to feel less alone, less adrift in an indifferent void. It is to sense that there is meaning not imposed from without, but arising from the very being of the universe itself. This is not a claim to knowledge, but an invitation to wonder, to humility, to curiosity. As the night deepens and the stars wheel silently overhead, it is easy to lose oneself in these questions. The mind drifts, gently untethered, into realms where fact and speculation mingle. Out there, in the darkness between the suns, might there be worlds where consciousness blooms in forms utterly unknown to us? Might the stones beneath our feet, the trees in the wind, the rivers flowing to the sea, each harbour their own quiet, secret lives? The stories we tell of Ewa and Solaris, of ancient gods and modern scientists, are a way of reaching toward these mysteries, of giving shape to the intuition that the universe is more than it seems. Through them, we glimpse the possibility that awareness is not an island, but an ocean, not a spark, but a slow, pervasive glow warming the darkness. In the quiet hours, these questions linger, not as puzzles to be solved, but as invitations to listen. The universe, vast and ancient, remains silent to our ears, but perhaps, if we are still enough, we may sense the faintest whisper, the suggestion that mind is not our lonely possession, but a cosmic inheritance shared in some measure by all that is. And so, as you settle deeper into the folds of night, let the thought drift with you, that perhaps far above and all around there are other kinds of listening, other forms of knowing, whispering softly in the stars. The story of consciousness, after all, is only just beginning to unfold, its next chapter hidden in the slow turning of the world, waiting to be heard. The hour grows late, and as you rest in the quiet hush between waking and sleep, let your mind drift not outward but inward, to the most intimate and elusive of mysteries, the phenomenon of consciousness itself. Here, in the dim-lit corridors of thought, hums a paradox older than science, echoing through philosophy, physics, and the silent wonder of existence. For as we gaze into the universe, peering back across time and space, we cannot escape the persistent whisper, "Who is doing the looking?" Let us begin with the enigma that is consciousness, that flicker of awareness which allows you to sense, to ponder, and to dream. It is not merely the sum of neural firings, not simply the chatter of ions across synaptic gaps, but something that feels, that knows itself as I. The universe in all its vastness is apprehended through this single subjective window, a phenomenon both so familiar and so utterly mysterious that it resists tidy explanation. Push aside for a moment the urge to define consciousness as a byproduct of biology, a mere side effect of evolution's blind tinkering. Instead, consider what it is to be aware, to see the dance of sunlight upon water, to recall a childhood memory, to feel the gentle ache of longing or the sudden flash of insight. Each of these is a private experience, untranslatable, irreducible. This is what philosophers call qualia, the texture of experience, the redness of red, the bitterness of regret, the sound of a beloved voice. From the outside, a brain can be measured, dissected, scanned, but the inner world remains stubbornly hidden, a secret lantern burning behind the eyes. And yet, this lantern is not merely a passive observer. Consider for a moment that the universe as we know it, every star catalogued, every law deduced, every galaxy mapped, has come into focus only through the lens of conscious minds. The equations of Newton and Einstein, the star charts of ancient astronomers, the poetry of Sappho, and the logic of Aristotle, all are artifacts of awareness. It is not the universe alone that is magnificent, but the universe as perceived, as understood, as rendered meaningful through the act of observation. Here the paradox deepens, for consciousness seems both a product of the universe and a requirement for its very unfolding. How can something so ephemeral, so personal, be woven into the fabric of cosmic reality? This is where the anthropic principle emerges, like a distant lighthouse on the shore of ignorance, casting its ambiguous glow over the dark waters of cosmology. The anthropic principle, in its simplest form, states that the universe must allow for the existence of conscious observers, because we are here to observe it. On first hearing, this may sound tautological, even trivial, but the implications are profound. The universe is governed by a delicate balance of physical constants, forces and masses, charges and energies, finely tuned so that atoms may gather, stars may burn, and, eventually, life may arise. If the strength of gravity were minutely different, if the charge of the electron were altered by a fraction, the cosmos would be barren, lifeless, silent. The settings are just so, as if the universe were, in some sense, expecting company. There are those who recoil from this suggestion, wary of anthropocentrism, the ancient folly of imagining the cosmos made for us. But the anthropic principle is not a declaration of purpose or privilege. It is a statement of selection. We find ourselves in a universe compatible with consciousness, because in universes not so attuned, no one would be present to ask why. It is a cosmic filter, a sieve through which only the habitable and the knowable worlds can pass. Yet this raises unsettling questions. Is consciousness an accident, a rare blossom on the tree of matter, or is it, as some have dared to wonder, a fundamental ingredient, an essential aspect of the universe itself? If the universe is, in some sense, conscious, if awareness is not merely a trick of neurons, but a property woven into the very grains of reality, then perhaps our own minds are not so much observers as participants, entangled with the cosmos in ways we have barely begun to imagine. Here, the conversation turns toward the shimmering uncertainties of quantum mechanics, where the boundaries between observer and observed grow porous, and the act of measurement seems to conjure reality from a haze of possibilities. In the quantum realm, a particle does not possess a definite position or momentum until it is measured. It exists in a cloud of probabilities, a blur of maybes and might-bes, collapsing into certainty only when observed. This is the famous measurement problem, the source of endless debate and not a little consternation. Does the act of observing truly bring reality into being, or is the observer simply registering what was already there in some hidden and unknowable form? The equations of quantum theory do not specify. They merely tell us what we can expect to find, not what is happening behind the veil. Some interpretations go further, suggesting that consciousness itself is the key to unlocking the quantum world. The consciousness causes collapse hypothesis, once championed by minds such as Eugene Wigner and John von Neumann, proposes that it is the act of conscious observation, not just any physical interaction, that resolves ambiguity into actuality. In this view, the universe remains indeterminate, a shifting mirage, until a conscious mind gazes upon it and fixes it in place. It is a bold and controversial idea, one that many physicists regard with skepticism, preferring to keep consciousness safely sequestered from the equations of matter. Yet the boundary blurs. Even the most cautious interpretations, such as the many worlds hypothesis, in which all possibilities are realized in branching universes, cannot fully expunge the role of observation, of information, of knowledge. The universe, it seems, is not a clockwork machine ticking mindlessly through time, but a tapestry in which mind and matter are inextricably entwined. Let us pause here and consider the strange implications. If consciousness is necessary for the universe to be brought into definite being, then the act of looking, of knowing, of becoming aware shapes reality itself. The observer is not merely a spectator, but a participant, a co-creator. In this perspective, the cosmos is not a stage set for passive observation, but a drama in which awareness is a vital actor. And yet, what is this consciousness? Is it a ghost in the machine, a mysterious essence animating the flesh? Or is it, as some philosophers and physicists suggest, an emergent property arising from the complex interplay of matter and energy? Perhaps it is both less and more than we imagine, a process, a pattern, a resonance that emerges whenever information flows and complexity blooms. Across the centuries, thinkers have grappled with these questions, from the dualism of Descartes, who envisioned mind and matter as separate substances, forever seeking reunion, to the monism of Spinoza, who saw all of reality as a single, infinite substance, God or nature, mind and matter as two faces of the same coin. In more recent times, the science of consciousness has blossomed, with neuroscientists mapping the neural correlates of awareness, tracing the flickers of activity that accompany thought and sensation. Yet the hard problem remains. Why should any arrangement of matter, however complex, give rise to experience? Why should the firing of neurons feel like anything at all? Some seek answers in the information itself. The physicist John Archibald Wheeler famously declared, "It from bit," suggesting that information is the bedrock of reality, and that the universe, at its most fundamental level, is composed not of things but of bits. Yes, no questions, answered by acts of observation. In this vision, the universe is a vast computation, a cosmic game of 20 questions, in which consciousness is both the player and the prize. Others look to panpsychism, the ancient idea resurrected in modern guise, which posits that consciousness is not unique to brains, but a basic feature of all matter, present in some rudimentary form in every electron, every proton, every field of force. Perhaps, like gravity or electromagnetism, consciousness is a universal property manifesting in ever more complex arrangements as the universe evolves. In this view, the cosmos itself is, in some sense, aware, a vast tapestry of experience woven from the smallest sparks of sentience. And yet, such notions are not easily reconciled with the hard edges of empirical science. Consciousness remains a riddle, elusive and profound. The universe, too, resists simple answers. It is possible that awareness is a fleeting accident, a temporary quirk of carbon chemistry on a minor planet circling an ordinary star. Or it may be, as some have dared to dream, the very purpose of existence, the universe awakening to itself, through us, and perhaps through countless other eyes scattered across the gulfs of space and time. Turn now to the night sky and consider the paradox of parallax. As the Earth orbits the Sun, the stars appear to shift against the backdrop of more distant constellations, a subtle dance revealing their distances and positions. Parallax is the geometry of perspective, the shifting view from different vantage points. But there is a deeper parallax, a shifting of conceptual perspective, when we contemplate our own role as observers of the universe. We are both within and without, both products of the cosmos and agents of its revelation. The philosopher Thomas Nagel once asked, "What is it like to be a bat?" inviting us to imagine the inner world of another mind, utterly different yet undeniably present. In a similar way, we might ask, what is it like to be the universe, aware of itself? Are we merely fleeting sparks in the darkness, or are we the eyes through which the cosmos beholds its own grandeur? In quantum mechanics, the notion of entanglement suggests that particles, once linked, remain connected across vast distances, their properties intertwined in a way that defies classical explanation. Some have speculated that consciousness, too, may be a form of entanglement, a web of awareness stretching across time and space, linking all sentient beings in a tapestry of shared experience. Such ideas are speculative, poetic, but they hint at possibilities as yet undreamt. The universe, as seen through the lens of consciousness, is not merely a collection of objects, but a field of relations, a network of meanings. The act of observation, the moment of awareness, is not passive but active, a creative engagement with reality, a bringing forth of the world. In this sense, the conscious universe is not a contradiction, but a mystery, a question that calls forth ever deeper questions, an invitation to wonder. And so as you drift further into the embrace of night, let yourself linger in this unresolved space between matter and mind, between observer and observed, between the known and the unknowable. The universe whispers its secrets in the language of paradox, inviting us to listen, to inquire, to dream, and somewhere in the hush between thoughts, a new question begins to form, delicate as dawn, waiting to be asked. Across the canopy of night, where the stars wheel in silent procession, a question lingers, both ancient and perennially new. If the cosmos is indeed alive with mind, how would we ever come to know it? What instruments, what subtle tools of thought or measurement could reveal the glimmer of awareness beyond the borders of our own skulls? To probe such a possibility is to stand at the confluence of philosophy and science, intuition and deduction. This is a realm where the slow, deliberate reasoning of centuries meets the fevered curiosity of the present, where the soft murmur of ancient sages is echoed by the beeping signals of radio telescopes turning toward the sky. The idea that mind might suffuse not just human beings, but the entire tapestry of existence is known as panpsychism, a word whose syllables evoke both the all-encompassing and the mysterious. Pan, the Greek for all, and psyche, the word for soul or mind. All things, perhaps, possess mind in some hidden, ineffable way. The notion predates even the first written alphabets, whispered in the flickering firelight of prehistoric nights, as hunter-gatherers pondered the animacy of rivers, stones, and wind. In the earliest philosophies of the world, mind and matter were not sharply sundered. The world itself was alive, God-breathed or ensouled. The ancient Greeks, so often the architects of our intellectual lineage, gave panpsychism its first systematic voice. Thales of Miletus, regarded by Aristotle as the first philosopher, declared that everything is full of gods, a poetic way of saying that even stones and water might harbour their own form of awareness. To Thales, the world was not a dead machine, but a living, breathing entity, replete with hidden sentience. Later philosophers like Plato imagined the cosmos itself as a living creature, a vast, harmonious animal whose soul infused the heavens and the earth. Plato's Timaeus presents the world not as a mere collection of parts, but as a single, unified being animated by a world soul. Through the centuries, this view ebbed and flowed. The early modern period, with its clockwork universe and Newtonian mechanics, cast a long shadow of mechanistic thinking, relegating the idea of an ensouled cosmos to the margins. Yet, in the quiet corners of philosophy, panpsychism endured, flickering like a candle in a drafty hall. The 17th century philosopher Baruch Spinoza, for example, envisioned a universe in which mind and matter were not separate substances, but two aspects of a single infinite reality. He wrote of God or nature, Deus sive natura, suggesting that all things were imbued with a kind of mental aspect, even if it was not mind, as we experience it. As the centuries unfurled, the question of consciousness, the puzzle of subjective experience, became ever more pressing. How does the red of a sunset, the ache of longing, or the taste of salt arise from the grey mush of matter? How can the electrical crackle of neurons give birth to the theatre of the mind? This is the so-called hard problem of consciousness, a phrase coined by philosopher David Chalmers. The hard problem is not just about the functions the brain can perform, but about why any of this should be accompanied by experience at all. To approach such a mystery, philosophers and scientists have wielded not only telescopes and microscopes, but also the sharp-edged tools of thought experiments. These are imaginary scenarios, constructed with the care of a mathematician shaping a proof, designed to reveal the hidden contours of our ideas. Consider for a moment the China brain thought experiment, first proposed by philosopher Ned Block in the 1970s. Suppose, he asks, that the entire population of China were organized to simulate the workings of a human brain. Each person, equipped with a radio and a set of rules, would pass messages to others in accordance with the firing of neurons. When one person receives a signal, she sends a message to another, just as a neuron might transmit an electric impulse to its neighbor. The vast network of Chinese citizens acting in concert would replicate the pattern of activity in a human brain. The question is, would such a system be conscious? Would there be an inner experience, somewhere diffuse perhaps, or centered in the collective? Or would the coordinated activity be, at bottom, a mindless imitation, like a wind-up doll mimicking speech? This thought experiment slices to the quick of our intuitions. If consciousness is nothing more than information processing, then why shouldn't the China brain be conscious? But if consciousness requires something more, some ineffable spark, then perhaps even the most perfect simulation would remain dark inside, devoid of any what it feels like to be the China brain. The experiment forces us to confront the boundaries of what counts as mind, and by extension, what it would mean for the universe itself to be conscious. Another famous philosophical tool is the philosophical zombie. This is not a shuffling corpse from cinema, but a being indistinguishable from a human in every outward respect, walking, talking, reacting to stimuli, yet utterly devoid of subjective experience. The zombie laughs, cries, professes love and pain, but feels nothing. David Chalmers uses this thought experiment to argue that consciousness is something extra, over and above physical processes. If it is logically possible to imagine a zombie world, physically identical to ours but lacking consciousness, then consciousness cannot be explained solely by physical facts. These thought experiments, though abstract, serve as lanterns in the dark. They illuminate the assumptions we carry, often unnoticed, about the relationship between mind and matter. They also reveal the difficulty of proving consciousness, even in beings who act as if they possess it. This epistemic shadow, the inability to peer directly into another's experience, is known as the problem of other minds. It haunts not just our speculation about the consciousness of rocks or stars, but even our relationships with one another and with the animals that share our world. If philosophy provides the conceptual scaffolding, science seeks its own instruments, subtle, ingenious, and sometimes audacious, by which to probe the possibility of mind in the cosmos. One of the most far-reaching of these is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or SETI. In the latter half of the 20th century, as radio telescopes sprouted like metallic flowers across the deserts of Earth, humanity began to listen to the sky, not just for the noise of stars, but for the whisper of intelligence. SETI is, in one sense, a search for cosmic kinship, the hope that somewhere in the ocean of darkness there are other minds, other listeners, raising their own questions about the nature of consciousness. The methods are both simple and sublime. Vast dishes sweep the heavens, tuned to the frequencies where cosmic noise is low and artificial signals might stand out. Algorithms sift through torrents of data, alert for the pulse of unnatural regularity, a sequence of primes perhaps, or the cadence of a message not shaped by wind or gravity, but by thought. So far the search has yielded only silence, the so-called Great Silence or Fermi paradox. If the universe teems with life, where is everybody? Perhaps we are alone, or perhaps our instruments are too crude, our expectations too narrow, or perhaps, in some strange twist, the universe is aware in a way that does not communicate through electromagnetic signals at all. The silence is not evidence of absence, but a challenge to our imagination, to devise new ways of listening, new forms of inquiry. Other scientific efforts, though more terrestrial, are no less audacious. Neuroscientists peer into the living brain, mapping its electrical storms with arrays of electrodes and pulses of magnetic resonance. They seek the neural correlates of consciousness, the patterns of activity that accompany awareness. With each new experiment, the boundaries of mind are redrawn. Some animals, once considered mere automatons, reveal surprising depths of perception and agency. Cephalopods, with their shifting colors and inquisitive arms, seem to dream and play. Crows fashion tools and recognize themselves in mirrors. The more we look, the more the old line between mind and matter blurs, Yet, for all our instruments, consciousness remains a stubbornly private affair. We can record the outward signs, the flicker of a neuron, the flutter of a tentacle, but the inwardness, the what it is like, remains hidden. This is the so-called explanatory gap, a chasm that yawns between our measurements and our experience. Some propose radical solutions. Perhaps consciousness is a fundamental feature of the universe, like mass or charge woven into the fabric of reality. This is the modern resurgence of panpsychism, now adorned with the language of information theory and quantum physics. Among the most ambitious of these modern theories is integrated information theory, or IIT, developed by neuroscientist Giulio Tononi. IIT proposes that consciousness corresponds to the degree of information integration in a system, the extent to which a system's parts are both differentiated and unified. In principle, any system, be it a brain, a computer, or a lattice of interacting particles, might possess some degree of consciousness depending on its informational architecture. This leads to startling, even unsettling possibilities, that consciousness might be ubiquitous, a faint glow in every organized pattern of matter. To test such ideas, researchers have devised clever experiments. In laboratories, they measure the complexity of brain activity, seeking correlations between integration and reports of conscious experience. They apply the theory to artificial systems, asking whether sufficiently complex computers might one day awaken. Yet, as with the China brain and the philosophical zombie, the question of what it is like remains elusive. Instruments can measure integration, but can they measure subjectivity? The dance between matter and mind continues, intricate and unresolved. Even time itself becomes an instrument of inquiry. In the study of ancient rocks, the chemistry of meteorites, the patterns of cosmic background radiation, scientists search for clues to the emergence of order, complexity, and perhaps awareness. The emergence of life from non-life is a chapter still being written, a process so improbable and delicate that it seems to hover on the edge of miracle. Some speculate that the universe is tuned for consciousness, that the laws and constants of physics are set just right for minds to arise. This is the so-called anthropic principle, a mirror held up to the cosmos, reflecting our own existence back at us. And so, across millennia, the instruments of insight multiply. From the whispered speculations of philosophers to the radio telescopes scanning the sky, from the electrodes embedded in neural tissue to the equations scribbled on blackboards, the search for cosmic mind continues. Each tool reveals a different facet of the question, but none yet offers a final answer. Somewhere perhaps there is a new kind of experiment waiting to be dreamed, a way of listening not just for signals but for the quiet presence of awareness itself, woven into the grain of reality. In the hush between star and atom, in the silence of the great void, there may yet be a whisper of mind, subtle and profound, and so the night deepens and the questions linger unresolved. we drift onward through the labyrinth of inquiry, drawn by the faint glow of possibility toward whatever revelations may lie ahead. So the universe stretches before us, an immense, almost unfathomable tapestry of darkness and light, of silence and cosmic song. At first glance it seems cold, impersonal, ruled by indifferent laws, where galaxies swirl like autumn leaves in a wind that knows no mind. Yet here we find ourselves, sentient, reflective, capable of wonder, and daring to ask if perhaps the universe itself is dreaming through us. As our bodies yield to rest and our thoughts drift toward the edge of waking, let us wander together into this most mysterious of questions. What if the universe, in some subtle and profound way, is conscious? And if so, what does that mean for us, the conscious children of a mindful cosmos? Consider for a moment the strange symmetry. Our brains, intricate and electric, contain billions of neurons, weaving signals in patterns both fleeting and eternal. These patterns somehow give rise to our inner lives, the warm hush of memory, the quicksilver flash of intuition, the quiet ache of longing. In the wider cosmos, stars cluster into galaxies, filaments thread the universe with luminous webbing, and vast clouds of gas and dust birth new worlds. Is there a resonance here, a fractal echo, between the mind's inner landscapes and the cosmic structures overhead? Some traditions, both ancient and modern, have whispered of this. The philosophers of old Greece, peering up at the Milky Way, speculated about a world soul, an anima mundi, breathing through all things. The Vedic sages of India meditated upon Brahman, the universal consciousness in which all forms arise and dissolve. In the quantum age, certain scientists and thinkers revisit these ancient intuitions, wondering if consciousness might not be a mere byproduct of matter, but something more fundamental, a property perhaps woven into the very fabric of reality. If the universe possesses a kind of mind, what is its nature? Is it a grand, unified field of awareness, ineffable and serene, or is it a chorus of consciousnesses, each world and star, and being humming its own unique melody? Our own experience offers a clue. Within us, the mind is not a single, static thing. It is a theatre of dreams, a parliament of voices, a river with many tributaries. Perhaps then the universe's consciousness is similarly manifold, a dance of dreams, ever shifting, ever creating itself anew. To ponder such things is to feel both humbled and uplifted. On the one hand, we are infinitesimal, mere specks on a pale blue dot circling an ordinary star. The universe is vast beyond reckoning, its distances measured in light years and eons, its energies dwarfing anything we can imagine. Yet, on the other hand, we are the universe become aware, matter that has learned to contemplate itself, to ask questions, to yearn for meaning. Our minds, so fragile and fleeting, are nevertheless the most complex structures we know, capable of holding within them the image of the cosmos itself. This paradox of smallness and grandeur lies at the heart of the human condition. We are at once dust and dreamers. If the universe is conscious, then our thoughts and feelings are not isolated eddies of awareness, but waves in a vaster ocean. Every moment of insight, every act of kindness, every spark of creativity might be seen as the universe reflecting upon itself, exploring the possibilities of its own being. But what does it truly mean for us, for our philosophies and aspirations, if the universe is awake? The implications spiral outward like ripples in a pond. First, it invites us to reconsider what it means to be alive and aware. If consciousness is not exclusive to brains of a particular size or shape, but is instead a pervasive quality, then the boundaries between self and world begin to blur. The old dualism, mind here, matter there, softens into a deeper unity. We are not strangers in a foreign land, but participants in a cosmic unfolding kin to the stars and the silent stones. This perspective fosters reverence, a sense of belonging, and perhaps a gentler way of living on our planet. To see all things as infused, however subtly, with awareness is to cultivate respect, not just for other humans, but for animals, forests, rivers, even the windswept deserts and the silent peaks. The earth becomes a living whole, not a resource to be consumed, but a community to be cherished. In this vision, ecology and philosophy entwine, and our choices gain new weight, for we are responsible to a wider community of being. Second, the possibility of a conscious universe transforms our understanding of mystery. The unknown is no longer merely an absence of knowledge, but a presence, a depth that invites us to listen, to inquire, to dream. In the gaps between what we know and what we long to discover, there is room for awe and for humility. The cosmos becomes a partner in dialogue, not just a puzzle to be solved, but a story to be entered, a song in which we are both listeners and singers. Science, too, is enriched by this openness to mystery. The search for understanding becomes not just a conquest of nature, but a communion with it. Every experiment, every observation is a moment of encounter, a meeting of minds, ours and perhaps the universe's own. The tools of reason and mathematics remain essential, but they are complemented by intuition, imagination, and wonder. In the great laboratories and observatories of our world, we find not just facts, but experiences of the sublime. Third, the notion of a conscious cosmos invites us to reimagine the future. If the universe is awake, then our own evolution, biological, cultural, technological, takes on new significance. We are not merely adapting to a hostile environment. We are participants in a process of awakening, agents of cosmic creativity. Our works of art, our stories, our dreams of peace and justice and beauty become part of the universe's own self-expression. What might this mean for our aspirations? It suggests that our highest ideals, truth, love, wisdom, are not arbitrary constructs, but glimpses of something real and enduring. When we build, when we heal, when we reach across divisions to find common ground, we are echoing a deeper harmony. Even our struggles and failures are woven into the larger pattern, threads of shadow that give shape to the light. Yet for all this, the mystery remains. We do not know, cannot know perhaps, whether the universe is truly conscious in any sense we can grasp. The evidence is subtle, the theories speculative, the experience is fleeting and hard to share. Some will say that consciousness is a trick of evolution, a side effect of brains that happen to survive and replicate. Others will insist that awareness is too strange, too irreducible to be explained away so easily. But perhaps certainty is not the point. Perhaps the value lies in the asking, in the openness to wonder. When we gaze up at the night sky, when we listen to the rain, when we sit quietly with our own thoughts, we are participating in an ancient, ongoing dance, a dance of dreams, of questioning, of reaching beyond ourselves. The universe, whatever its nature, invites us to join this dance, to add our own rhythms and melodies to its unfolding song. In this way, the distinction between inner and outer, self and world, becomes less rigid. Our minds are not mere spectators observing a distant cosmos. We are actors on the stage, dancers in the round. Our perceptions, our intentions, our stories all shape the way the universe appears to us, and perhaps even how it evolves. The act of observation, as quantum physics reminds us, is not neutral. It is participatory, creative, mysterious. This participatory aspect deepens when we consider the collective mind of humanity. Across cultures and ages we have dreamed of connection, not just with each other, but with the cosmos itself. Through language, art, ritual, and science, we have woven a net of meaning that spans the globe. Our myths and religions, our philosophies and technologies are all expressions of the same yearning, to feel at home in the universe, to sense a purpose, to belong. If the universe has a mind, then perhaps we are its neurons, its storytellers, its dreamers. Each of us carries a fragment of the whole, a unique perspective, a singular note in the cosmic symphony. When we come together, when we share our hopes and fears, our joys and sorrows, we create something larger than ourselves, a culture, a civilization, a planetary consciousness. At the same time, the universe's mind, if it exists, would surely be different from ours, vaster, stranger, more diffuse. Our own awareness is shaped by the needs of survival, by the boundaries of our bodies, by the fleetingness of our days. The universe's awareness, if it is real, might be slow as the drift of continents, deep as the space between the stars, wide as the cosmic web. It might not think in words or images, but in patterns of energy, in the birth and death of suns, in the spiral arms of galaxies, or perhaps it thinks not at all, but dreams us, dreams itself, dreams the possibility of becoming ever more awake. This thought, gentle and wild, invites us to listen in a new way, to the world around us, to the silent presence of the night, to the quiet voice within. What if, in the hush before sleep, we are closest to the universe's own dreaming? What if our deepest intuitions, our moments of sudden insight or inexplicable peace, are echoes of a larger mind, ripples on a sea of cosmic consciousness? There is a kind of comfort in this vision, but also a challenge. If we are part of the universe's mind, then our actions matter, not just for ourselves, but for the whole. Our choices, our dreams, our willingness to care and to imagine are the ways in which the universe wakes up to itself. To live well, then, is not only a personal task, but a cosmic one. We are stewards of a great mystery, caretakers of awareness, guardians of the fragile flame of consciousness. As you settle into sleep, let these questions linger, unresolved and luminous. What is it to be awake in a world that may itself be waking? What is it to dream when the universe may be dreaming through you? Listen for the quiet pulse beneath your thoughts, the slow turning of the stars, the deep hush of the cosmic night. There is more to know, more to feel, more to become. The dance continues, and we are, each of us, a step in its unfolding, a note in its restless, shimmering song. In the darkness, a gentle uncertainty remains, like a door left ajar, through which new questions may drift. Perhaps tomorrow, or in another age, we will glimpse further into the heart of things. For now, we rest in the embrace of the unknown, warmed by the possibility that consciousness is not a solitary spark, but a fire shared by all that is. And so the universe and our minds twine together, dancing their dreams, awaiting the next movement of the cosmic symphony. As our journey through the cosmic question of a conscious universe gently drifts to a close, may your thoughts float like stardust, shimmering softly against the vast hush of night. Let this quiet wonder settle like a comet tail fading into the endless sky, inviting you to return soon for more dreamtime tales woven from the mysteries of the cosmos.